in session this time. Is there a motion to seal the minutes?
So moved. Oh, I'm sorry. No votes were taken during executive session. And please seal the minutes.
Motion by Mrs. Bottomoli to seal the minutes and note that no votes were taken. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Weinstein. Any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Bottomoli?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara? Yes. Mr. O'Day?
Yes.
Mrs. Wojcicki?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes. At this time, we're going to move up the joint meeting with the Town Council and Municipal Building Review Task Force. Put them up front and center. Discussion by council board other action on the bonding history related to Pendleton and Bushy School. Discussion to include all aspects as it relates to architectural design, plans, cost estimates, preparation of the architect's bid specs, base and add alternate, and preparation of the architect's budget, conclude review of the overall process and its decision points. So at this time, I gotta open up task force meeting with a roll call. Mr. Chamberlain, Mr. Beauregard, Mr. Perry, Mr. Nordstrom, myself, looked at the complete board is present. And our item is the same as the council's for discussion vote or other action on bonding history. So the first item we have is a public hearing. Just want to let everybody know that when you come up, state your name and your address. Address all questions to the chair and through the chair, and we will keep track of them. And when we're finished with the public hearing, we will have the joint meeting with the task force, of which there will be discussion by council vote and other action.
Can I ask a question? The solicitor provided the counselors with a guideline to follow. I would like to know that we will follow through with this guideline to keep order during this meeting and hearing. Does that need to be a motion?
We should, if the council wants to actually follow this. Mr. President, that was a suggestion, obviously I submitted. If the council wants to adopt it as a process for this particular public hearing, then you should state it. If it's approved by the council, then you should state what they are, if that's what they want to do. I don't have that ability, but to state it.
I can forward it to you. Okay. Should too. All right. Yes. Yes. So I would like to make a motion to accept the recommendations for the public hearing that has been provided by the town solicitor.
Second by Mrs. Zelinski. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Mrs. Barnamoli?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Riddick?
Yes.
Mrs. Zelinski?
Yes.
Mr. Vannen?
Yes. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved, Mr. President.
Motion by Mrs. Zelinski, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. O'Hara. Call vote.
Mrs. Barnamoli?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Riddick?
Yes.
Mr. Zelinski?
Yes.
Mr. Vannen?
Yes. Now for the clerk, can you deal with keep track of these questions for us? I'll try to.
I will try to as well.
Question, is there any more below sign-up sheet? Is that supposed to scroll up to see what else there is on that sheet? Thank you.
Yes.
Can you give us a minute to read that?
Yeah.
And secondly, Paul, I assumed if it was a public hearing, as we usually do, if we asked a question through the chair of the architect, he'd reply, and we'd be able to ask a follow-up question or clarify his answer.
Normally a public hearing,
Is that how it's going to work?
people make comments or questions, and then they're addressed after when we go into the discussion by the board.
That wasn't how the public hearing for the solar array was held. Was that it? Mr. Igliozzi, was that it?
On the ordinance was different. We had to discuss that under the public hearing to make change the ordinance. Am I correct?
That's correct.
It's actually number 5. Is it covered in number 5?
Three.
I think the rules provide for multiple rounds if you have time. Multiple rounds.
Anyone wishing to speak in the public hearing?
But can we read this first? So as I read that, Mr. Sakosha will be afforded the opportunity to provide a brief history before the public hearing begins.
Excuse me?
As I read this, am I interpreting it correctly that Mr. Sakosha will be afforded an opportunity to provide a brief history of the project as it relates to the agenda before the public hearing begins?
Let me start out by making a statement.
Statement to inform.
You control that. For the last 6-7 months, when we discuss issues with the task force, it's myself that addresses it to the council as the chair, and I don't have a problem doing that. But it seems that everyone looks at me, and I need to let everyone in this audience and the rest of the board know that when I come up here, I represent 5 people. Board that was appointed by the council, 5 members. And I want to introduce those members to everyone here so everybody knows who they are. David Chamberlain, Senior Vice President of Copy and Auto Group, probably has $3 billion of construction in his portfolio. Paul Nordstrom, recently retired Director of Operations, Narragansett Bay Commission, professional engineer, probably has $2 billion of construction in his portfolio. John Perry, HVAC engineer, not an engineer, but designer, consultant, and installer, and John Beauregard, former president of the town council, and myself. So those are the 5 members. So when I come up here, I represent those 5 members. It's not my opinion alone, it's based on those 5 members. So you would like to hear from, have Mr. Scott give a presentation now? Well, it's kind of going to be hard for him to make a presentation if he doesn't know what the questions are. I've asked 3 times, and we didn't really get any clear questions other than the one question from Mr. Clifford last week, 2 weeks ago.
Not only, Mr. President, when we have an open public hearing, someone comes up and gives a brief summary of their charges, their duties, where they are. So I think the questions will be coming. So, Mr. Scotia, mind coming up and explaining or just giving us a brief summary where things are at? Let's start the ball rolling.
Well, if you'd like, I can give you some brief history of it.
How about Mr. Scotia? I mean, you've been keeping us updated all the time. I'd like to hear Mr. Scotia come up and just give us a brief synopsis of what's transpired and possible look to the future if that's possible.
Good evening.
Just the name, right?
Mark Sicoscio, Sicoscio and Associates Architects, Cranston, Ohio.
Could you fix the volume so we can hear? We can't hear nothing.
There's not a lot we can do.
Hello? Hello. Yeah, I'm happy to give an update. Not really sure. I've been asking several times what the purpose of this meeting was. So there was nothing prepared because I received no information ahead of this meeting to what's supposed to be addressed, what has to be addressed. As far as the project goes, the town hall project should be receiving a CO within the next 2 weeks. The project is per our original design. Calson Corporation, along with their architect, Richard Cottarelli, is in the process of getting all their final sign-offs. The project should be finishing up within the next couple of weeks. I know there's been questions regarding the police station. I can review the history so everyone's clear. I made a council presentation on the 22nd of January, 2018. At that time, we presented the budgets for both buildings. And as you recall, the budget for the police station was over and above the amount allocated for the two projects. We followed that up with a letter in 1/28/18 suggesting a downgraded scope for the police station of about $900,000. That was agreed upon by the council, voted by the council, and we were hired then subsequent to that in February to produce a set of bridging documents. At that time, we presented a set of bridging documents in October 2nd, 2018. Bids were received. The council voted to award to Calson Corporation the town hall project only. The police project was over the allocated $900,000 and the bid was thrown out. There was much discussion about whether or not money should be invested in the building at that time. Several conversations were had as to a relook of exactly what's going to happen with that. I will reiterate that the scope was dictated by meeting with the police chief and fellow officers, and the scope was determined over and above what was the $900,000. The goal was to see where the market was at that time, to see how close we could come to the numbers, and then potentially negotiate. But the scope was far in excess of what our recommendations were back in January of 2010. Questions?
Yeah, I have one. I don't know if Mrs. Sicoscio can answer it or if it's a question for the MBRTF. So, is it okay if I ask it, Bob? So, on 10/2 of 2018, there was a motion made by the council president at the time and seconded by Councilwoman Bartolome, and it was voted unanimously on a roll call vote that based on the recommendation of the MBRTF or the Municipal Building Task Force, Base bid B will be reevaluated and undergo a scope review to try to bring it within the budget and go back out for rebidding. And it effectively rejected all prior bids for base bid B. That motion passed. Did that ever take place, that we went back out and reevaluated that bid to try to bring it within budget?
Not at this time.
Is there a reason why?
When we originally made the recommendation to go back and reevaluate it, we were gonna go back and look at all 4 of the bidders. If that's how you have to do it, you have to go back and look at all of them and redo the scope. But the scope would have been too much of a change to go forward with that process, to say, okay, we want to take this out, take that out. Our original thought process was to meet with the police chief when we had an actual solid number and say, okay, we can't do all of this. And so we would have a shopping list saying, if we delete this or we add this, where do we come out? But it was too far of a gap to make up. So the recommendation was just to scrap all the bids, and then we would go back and reevaluate those bids without going to the bidders to draft a new bid, to go back out to bid once this project was done, once the town hall project was done, and then we had an actual solid number of how much we were giving them.
What's the thought?
More questions of Mr. Stewart?
Not this time, but possibly move further down.
We'll get back to him, I'm sure. Anyone wishing to speak in the public?
Mike Clifford, 489 Black Plain Road. Mike Clifford, 489 Black Plain Road. I'm a little confused by what I just heard. So I'm going to proceed with my presentation, and then I would really like the opportunity for some clarification on some of the points that were just made. The first document, if you keep these in order, you'll be able to follow along much more easily. The first document is just the minutes from the 22nd, when Mr. Sakosha did his presentation, and the minutes of February 5th, where you voted unanimously on a roll call to move forward based on the recommendations of Sakosha Associates and begin the process of going to design, build, model, and developing the scope and drawings to match the town's budget for this project as defined in the conceptual plan that was presented on January 22nd. It was to match the town's budget. Okay. The next item is the budget that you reviewed on the February 5th meeting. Those are documents that Mr. Sakosha had sent. When you were discussing it on the 22nd, you were going to vote on it, and I asked if you had a full report with the budget in front of you, and the answer was no. So you deferred making a decision on the 22nd, asked that the budget and the other documents, the full report, be provided to you for the 5th, and you also promised that it would be on the town website a week before the meeting was held. And on the 5th, the minutes will reflect that under good and welfare, I did complain that, again, you didn't fulfill your promise of posting those numbers so anybody could scrutinize them beforehand, and they were not available until after the meeting on the 5th. But the numbers that Mr. Sakosha presented to you were very clear. $5 million was available, $500,000 for contingency, $100,000 for furniture and fixtures, available for construction, 4.4. He projected $3.5 million for the scope of work for the Kendall Dean building, and $900,000 for the reduced scope of work that he spoke about on that evening for $900,000. And on that evening, he said that he was going to do roofing, windows, environmental cleanup, upgrade retention area, and provide a new sally port. That was basically how he described the $900,000 renovations would work. So then the next page, this is the budget that he presented that night for, that he reviewed that night for the Kendall Dean building, it's the first one. He projected the cost would come in at $3.5 million. The following page is for the full renovation of Bushy. He presented the proposal at $3.3 million for a full renovation. He obviously, according to the chart that he used that night and showed you on the video, he said, obviously we can't do that amount of work, so we're going to come up with a scope of work that will, for the reduced proposal of $900,000. That was the budget that he presented that evening. $900,000. And the bids came in 2.4 million to 2.77 million. 2.5 to 3 times higher than what he told you he was going to develop the scope of work for. And I stress again, the motion said that will match the town's budget. Nothing theoretical, it was going to match the town's budget. I'd like to know what the purpose would be in developing a scope of work that was far more extensive when we all knew we couldn't afford it. We already did that budget in 2006.